Okay, you guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad to have you here today. So today I want to talk about the stabbing that occurred on the train. I was going to talk about this last week, but of course everything happened with Charlie Kirk, and we're all, I think, still pretty shaken up from that. I know I am. I know my head's still reeling, and honestly, I could probably still talk about it, but I don't want this to fall to the back burner because this is incredibly important too. And it was one of the last things that Charlie talked about before he died. And so we're going to just go ahead and get right into it. But first, this is your reminder to subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up. It is really helpful for me, and it does mean a lot to me to help build this platform when you subscribe. And if you want to check me out on any of my other social medias, those are always linked down below. And let's dive right in. Okay, so I want to just go ahead and start with the security footage of this incident. It didn't show the moment that Irina, I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure how it is pronounced, the moment that she is stabbed. It shows leading up to and then after. And then we will dive into a little bit of other things that have come out since and really what all of this means. Okay, so that was the security clip. There's so many things that are insane about this story, and we'll dive into some of them, but mostly just how unaware, I guess, that the other passengers were. And I do, in my heart of hearts, want to chalk it up to being unaware and not paying attention, because the alternative is that they were paying attention and they did see what was happening and they just chose to ignore it, and that's far worse. We have spoken about media bias on this channel so many times because it's so prevalent, but we would be remiss if we did not touch on it with this particular story, because our media, you guys, it's doing their big one. As you can see here, AP News, when it came to George Floyd, there were about 74,000 search results. For Irina, none. Now, I think it's really important also to keep in mind that this happened 3 weeks ago at this point of this video coming out. When it started making headlines last week, it had already been 2 weeks. So there is not really any reason why this should not have been written about or spoken about on a publication such as AP. Here we have kind of a summary of it all. 0 AP stories, 0 PBS, New York Times, NPR, Wall Street Journal, BBC, CNN, any of these, zero mention. Here you have, this one is honestly, I think, the most apples to apples, because you have Kyle Penny, who was discussed so prevalently on all of these media companies for such a long time, because he stopped what could have happened. You know, I'm sorry, you don't get to go walk on a train talking about how you want to kill everyone and harm everyone on the train and expect 0 consequences. This man did exactly what he should have done. And they don't talk about this young girl once. Not once. And it's almost impressive. Then, when we do start getting stories about it, we get headlines such as this: a gruesome murder in North Carolina ignites a firestorm on the right. Security footage capturing the unprovoked stabbing in Charlotte became accelerant for conservative arguments about the perceived failings of Democratic policies. We are going to get into that. But first, that article was from the New York Times. It is the only article that had been written about this instance, whereas you have George Floyd, you have 5,300 results, Trayvon Martin, 1,100, Daniel Penny, 91, Michael Brown, 2,600. So it's just, it's just interesting. It's just an interesting observation. The last article I want to look at is this one from Axios: stabbing video fuels MAGA's crime message. I gotta say, dividing this situation along political lines is a choice, for sure. That's a decision that you made. Particularly, I want to look at this portion of it where it says, big picture, the rising number of surveillance cameras in public spaces, including on Charlotte's light rail, has become a big accelerant in these cases. The video is easily shared or leaked and can instantly pollinate across social media, a visual counterpoint to statistics showing crime decreases. I really want to talk about these crime decreases because, yes, crime is down in cities, but it is still way higher than the national average, which is around 5 per 100,000. And the top 5 most dangerous cities range from 60 to 30 per 100,000. So there's still a huge crime issue happening in cities. Just because it's down from its psychotic COVID peak does not mean that y'all are in a good position. For example, Chicago has dozens of shootings every single weekend. I mean, every single week is another headline of 54 shot and 16 dead. Like, the amount of shootings that happen in Chicago, that's not normal. I know that you guys are like accustomed to thinking, I live in a city, I gotta get used to crime. You don't. If you would get rid of your insane policing policies, maybe we could address some of this stuff. Especially when you consider the fact that so many of these people are repeat offenders. And that is honestly the core of this, because there is such an unwillingness in Democrat cities to prosecute criminals. The man who murdered this young woman had 13 prior arrests, 2 of which were recent and were assaults against women. He had served 5 years, I think it was from 2015 to 2020, for robbery or burglary with a deadly weapon. And as soon as he got out, he started committing crimes again. And I'm sorry, but you should not get 13 chances. You should not get 13 chances. There has to come a point, especially when you mix in, it is reported that he had schizophrenia. I'm not 100% sure if that's confirmed or not. But when you start mixing these things in together, whether he needs to be in a prison or a psychiatric hospital, this man needs to be off of the fucking streets. We've had enough. So in response to this, the mayor of Charlotte did put out a response. I want to show that to you guys because it is quite interesting. Okay, so we have, over the past several weeks, our community has worked to understand this. What we know is that this was a tragic failure by the courts and magistrates. Our police officers arrest people only to have them quickly released, which undermines our ability to protect our community and ensure safety. We need a bipartisan solution to address repeat offenders who do not face consequences for their actions, and those who cannot get treatment for their mental illnesses are allowed to be on the streets. We have partnered before on legislation like North Carolina's Pretrial Integrity Act, and we stand ready to partner again at the local, state, and federal level. I want to assure the community that we are taking action, and we will continue to take action. Now, I will hand it to her. That sounds really good, except for the fact that this is the second statement that she has put out. And the only reason she put out this statement is because of the public backlash. I want to take a look at the original statement that she put out when this first happened. Okay, so she says, this is a tragic such situation that sheds light on problems with society safety nets related to mental health care and the systems that should be in place. While I do not know the specifics of the man's medical records, what I have come to understand is that he has long struggled with mental health and appears to have suffered a crisis. This was the unfortunate and tragic outcome. While there are questions about the safety and security of our transit system in our city, I do know there have been significant and sustained efforts to address safety and security within our transit system and across our city. But this is where it gets interesting down here. It says, I want to be clear that I am not villainizing those who struggle with their mental health or those who are unhoused. Mental health disease is just that, a disease like any other that needs to be treated with the same compassion, diligence, and commitment as cancer or heart disease. Those who are unhoused are more frequently the victims of crime and not the perpetrators. Too many people who are on the streets need a safe place to sleep and wrap around services to lift them up. This is quite a different tone than that second message that she put out, wouldn't you say? She definitely went from victim blaming and sympathizing with the murderer in this case to being a hard-on crime, serious advocate for repeat offenders. So I'm gonna go ahead and call bullshit. I'm gonna call that as pretty fucking insincere, ma'am. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. By the way, I get comments all the time about my sweet orange boy back there. He is the best. His name is Swarik. I know, it's a name. If you know what it is from, comment down below, because that's always fun. But he is, in fact, the best, and I'm sorry that he is flashing you guys at the moment. That's unfortunate. The switch up on the mayor's statement just goes to show how much they worry about not putting Black people in a bad light, or homeless people, or like mentally ill people. They are so concerned with not painting them in a bad light that they end up doing more harm to them than good. Because when you're unwilling to talk about the problems and acknowledge the problems that are in reality, you're not going to be able to solve them. You know, they say that the first step to fixing a problem is admitting you have one. Yeah, they won't. And it's just very emblematic of the virtue signaling tendencies of the left. Say words and do nothing. Fantastic. And for what it's worth, we do need to have a conversation about mental health. But I think that, like with so many things, I think the right and the left, we both see that there's a mental health crisis, but our approaches are completely polar opposite. Somebody on the left sees somebody who is suffering from gender dysphoria and thinks that they need to be affirmed in that, and they need to be told that they're correct and great and wonderful, whereas someone on the right thinks that they should probably go to real therapy. And I know that we have gotten confused somewhere along the line, but affirmative therapy is actually antithetical to therapy itself. Your therapist is not supposed to affirm all of your mental illnesses. They're supposed to help you work through them and heal from them. And I'm not saying everyone who experiences gender dysphoria is going to be able to heal from that and work through that. Like, if you are an adult and you want to transition, that's on you. Do whatever you want. I recommend going through therapy first before you make such a huge life-altering decision. And that's where most conservatives and most people on the right are coming from, is you can't get to the bottom of something, of your struggles, if the person that you're talking to is just telling you you're right about everything. And it's not even just that, it's the constantly validating your feelings, focusing so much on your own self-love and your own person, because frankly, when you are so focused on yourself, when you're focused that much on you, it's gonna produce more anxiety. But obviously in this case, we are dealing with something much deeper than TikTok therapy problems. And that's probably why he shouldn't have been roaming on the fucking streets. It was well established that this man had serious mental illnesses. Again, potentially schizophrenia, 100,000 prior arrests. He should not have been on the street. And the solution to that is very, very simple. More police presence decentivizes crime. That only truly works when you have two other factors. One, proper funding for proper training and proper community involvement, because you cannot effectively and safely police a community that you are not familiar with. Because it's a lot easier to assume the worst about someone you don't know. You have to know the community that you are policing. And obviously the cops can't know every single person, but on a general basis. But the second thing is a judicial system that supports their police officers. Because if our officers are out there making these arrests and doing their job and trying their hardest, but then the judges are just releasing them back onto the street over and over and over and over again, one, that's exhausting for the police officers to continuously be arresting the same person time and time again and have nothing happen to them. It's also a waste of resources. I mean, it's just such an ineffective system, and I can understand how from the left it seems like the empathetic thing. You shouldn't have to sit in the jail just because you don't have money, blah, 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 blah. You committed a fucking crime. You committed 10 fucking crimes. Sit your ass in jail. I'm sorry. If you don't want to go to jail, don't do the crime. So, yes, what happened to this young girl was 100% preventable, and it was 100% because of Democratic policies that it happened. And I'm standing on that. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that there was a preventative measure that could have been taken in this case. If you disagree, discuss down below. And I will talk to you guys next time.